to Caleb Watches Movies, the channel where I, Caleb, randomly select from one of the many movies that I own and I watch and review them for you, except for days like today where I take a popular film franchise, or I take a popular character, or a famous awards ceremony and I rank the crap out of it. And there is a very famous awards ceremony that is happening this weekend called the Academy Awards, which is like the benchmark when it comes to films particularly produced here in America. It's the big climactic event that kind of puts a close on the previous year film releases, and then we start focusing on this year's. And it allows all of these artists, in particular that live out in LA, a chance to kind of sit in one big gigantic theater all dressed up to really praise themselves at the work that they did. Like, we really did a great job, right? Right, everyone? Like, we were awesome. Isn't this great? It's completely fun, totally not biased at all, and it's like 10.5 hours long. Isn't that awesome? So I thought, in honor of the Academy Awards this weekend, I thought I would take a look back and rank a couple of the Best Picture winners. In particular, all of the films that won the prestigious title of Best Picture during the decade of the 2010s. And when I say the 2010s, I mean all of the films that received the reward at the Oscars during the decade, the 2010s. So even though Parasite was released in 2019, because it won Best Picture in 2020, that is going to count towards the next Best Picture ranking video that I will do. I'm very excited that I did this because a lot of these movies that do win Best Picture are great films. They are stunning, they are beautiful, they have great performances, they have great cinematography. Some of them, though, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they were selected because of what was happening during the time or some political message that was going on at the time. So it's like, well, you know, you're great, but really you're here because of that thing. But nothing can deny that all 10 of these pictures are fantastic. They are great cinema. And there are always Oscar snubs. There's always going to be something, depending on me, depending on you, whoever you are, saying like, oh, well, that film should have won that year. Or this, you know what, this film should have at least been nominated during this year, and it wasn't even nominated. I get that. That always happens. That totally happened a lot of the years on this list. But this list is not about talking about what they got right, what they got wrong. These are all the films that won Best Picture in history. That is a concrete fact that cannot be disputed at all. These are all the Best Picture winners, and here it is, my ranking of all 10 of them during the decade of the 2010s. Starting off at the bottom of my list at number 10 is a movie called La La Land. Oh, wait, hold on, sorry. What was that? Oh, I'm sorry, the actual Best Picture for the year 2017 was Moonlight. But I feel like the lesser of those two movies actually legitimately won Best Picture that year. This film tells the story of a young kid growing up in 3 different decades of his life, dealing with being a black man in this country, but also dealing with the fact that he is a closeted homosexual. And what does it mean being a homosexual, in particular in a black community? The film has a couple of great performances. Mahershala Ali won Best Supporting Actor for this film, and he is terrific in it. He's not in the film a lot. I wish he was in it a lot more. Naomi Harris plays the boy's mother, and that character is just someone that you love to hate. Character that just does terrible things to this kid and doesn't show any love to him at all. Makes this kid very sympathetic. And I like the young child actor and the teenage actor who plays this boy. But when we get to adult Chiron, I'm kind of losing it here, and I don't see any connection between who that version of the character is to the 2 previous young kid versions of it. There's a good 2/3 of a film here, but that last act, that last little section, doesn't connect for me at all, and there's really no transition between the 3 chapters. It's just, up, curtains up, and then screen goes black, and then we're into the teenage decade. And then screen goes black, we go into the next decade. And I'm like, where is the transition? I want to see the journey of this character throughout his life, not just taking individual sections of it, because that doesn't tell me who this character is. Moonlight, it's a fine picture. It's a fine 2/3 of a picture, but definitely belongs at the bottom of my list for this decade. At number 9 won Best Picture in 2018, all the way from Guillermo del Toro, a film called The Shape of Water. Yeah, and I feel like I've lost everyone by this point, and it's only 2 films in, because I know majority of people love this movie. For whatever reason, though, it just doesn't compute for me. It's the story of a mute cleaning woman who cleans aquariums at this government-controlled secret research lab facility thing that now plays house to one of these strange enigmas and creatures that we have ever found on this planet. Basically, the creature from the Black Lagoon. And the woman falls in love with the creature. The movie has a big H.P. Lovecraft vibe about it. This woman falling in love with this humanoid sea creature. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and it's a great concept, but I guess for me there were other nominees that year that I felt should have won over top of this film. Specifically, my vote was for Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, but we ended up with this film. The movie takes place at the start of the whole space race, and in the Cold War, where the United States and the Russians are going up against each other, trying to get each other's secrets and shit. It does have a great performance by Michael Shannon, who is just one weird guy on screen. I'm sure he's a sweetheart in real life, but all the characters he plays are just so freaking weird. I feel like there are much better films from Guillermo del Toro that should have won Best Picture over this one. I felt like this was kind of just like a handout, like, yeah, you're great and you should have won previously, but, you know, here you go. At number 8 is a silent film about a silent film star trying to hold on to the past mentality of what film is and his fight against the talkies. It's a movie called The Artist. This film is very impressive and it's very meta. It's a silent film about a silent film and a silent film artist, which is really impressive. It's a great idea. However, we did see it before with Singing in the Rain. This is a more dramatic and sad version of Singing in the Rain, basically. But it's a story about true artistry. Like, what it means to be an artist. And once you achieve fame and you achieve the idea of what celebrity is, what are you willing to keep it? And are you willing to change with the times? Because that's what art is. Art is a mirror to society, and society evolves over time. Are you going to evolve with it, or are you going to stay in the past, stayed solidified in your own shell of what your idea of what art is? And that's our protagonist's main dilemma. He's a famous silent film actor, and he wants to stay in silent films, but then when these new things called talkies start coming out, he laughs at it. He shrugs it off. He says, oh, that's not art. That's not what films are. What I've been doing over the last several decades. That's art. But the message of this movie is that there is no such thing as a solid definition of what art is. What you are talking about, the definition that you're clamoring on to, is ego. You are clamoring on to your own ego. Art is ever evolving, and if you want to be a true artist, you yourself need to evolve with the time. It is a brilliant picture, and it's really nice to see a film that kind of represents, and it's a love letter to classic Hollywood. The Academy loves those movies. If you have a movie that has a movie theater in it, or it's a movie about movies, chances are you're gonna get a nice little nomination, or get a nice push towards being nominated for Best Picture. At number 7 is the newest film that you will see on this list, a movie called Green Book. A movie that everyone said was great up until it won Best Picture, and then everyone said, what? No! It's great and all, but Best Picture winner? No! And I never saw it, actually, until I watched it for this ranking video. And I think it is a cute-ass movie. Does Viggo Mortensen get very annoying with his Brooklyn Italian accent? Oh my god, yes. It's very authentic, and it's really good. But because it's really good, it's very annoying because that accent is very annoying. And Mahershala Ali returns here as the Doctor, who is one magnificent, brilliant pianist. But it's a story about their growing friendship with each other. And it showcases racism, a black man traveling through the South as an entertainer, how he's seen in great standing when he is performing, but outside of that, just being a regular person, he's sent to the outhouse to go to the bathroom, or no, he can't eat in the main restaurant of the theater that he's performing in because he is a black man. It's about racism, it's about stereotypes, and stereotypes for everything. Not just stereotypes that white people have for black people, or black people have for white people. No, there are stereotypes that white people have on white people, and stereotypes that black people have on black people. It put a smile on my face, and I enjoyed watching this movie. I don't know what all the fuss was about. At number 6 is probably the most accurate film representation of the war in the Middle East from the early 2000s. Is a movie called The Hurt Locker. Story about a couple of techs that drive around and disable bombs. Not a lot of gunfiring and not a lot of battles that are being had in this film, but that doesn't mean that this film is not tense as shit, because Jeremy Renner is inside these cars and inside these buildings trying to deactivate the bomb before whoever is watching it detonates it, and that is freaking thrilling. It's also a movie about addiction, and not what you typically associate addiction with. When you think addiction, oh, you think drugs, you think alcohol, but no, there is an addiction out there for PTSD. That thrill, the adrenaline that you get when you are disabling a bomb, and you have all these people watching you, and any one of them could be the trigger man, and any one of them who's walking by you could be the enemy that you need to take out first. Of course, PTSD and being paranoid like that is not a good thing to be in society, but there is an addiction to it, and there are people out there that love the adrenaline that they get from it, and this movie highlights what that is. It was one of my first introductions back in 2009 to the idea of what PTSD is, and just how important mental health and therapy is. Great cinematography, great editing in this film that keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time, from Kathryn Bigelow, who was the first female to win an Academy Award for Best Director. Absolutely deserved. This film is pretty freaking good. At number 5 was a film that I had initially higher on this list, but going back and watching it, it's a really weird trip, but that doesn't mean that it's not good, and that's a movie called Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. This was Michael Keaton's comeback, and he is awesome in it. He plays a man who used to be famous for playing a famous comic book character, and is now trying to get his celebrity back in the limelight, so he creates his own project, his own theater show, and puts it on. Yeah, what a reach, Michael Keaton. But this was the reminder to everyone that Michael Keaton is cool. He is awesome, and he's a great actor. And this film is also known for its cinematography of everything seemingly being in one continuous shot. Pretty much throughout the entire movie, it's frickin' flawless. And another film about the idea of celebrity and what it means to be popular and to build up your name and to create your name in such a way where it's bigger than anything else. But then also for the person's need for that name to stay popular and stay realized for all the people to see and to love and to take pictures of and to comment on. There are points though where I am questioning what the hell is happening. What is reality? Are we just living in this guy's head, or is this all reality? And then when we think that we are in reality, we go, wait a minute, I think we're still dreaming. Or were we dreaming at all? What the fuck is going on? But Birdman is a tremendous experience, and the cinematography style, the one-take shot, influenced TV and films to come. At number 4 was one great, big, fantastic ensemble film called Spotlight. Pretty straightforward film, actually. A bunch of people at the Boston Globe get all the reports from all these priests in the area who molested young little boys. And as they dive deeper into the rabbit hole, they find that this list of priests who have done this is extensive, and it is creepishly extensive. It's just one of those movies that you sit back and you go, yep, that was frickin' solid. Is it groundbreaking? Is it saying anything new? Does it have a great political message behind it? No, it's just a really great movie. And a great movie from the concept of all of these actors and performers just collaborating and working perfectly with each other. Michael Keaton, Mark Ruffalo, Liev Schreiber, Rachel McAdams, Brian Darcy James, all of these actors just are tremendous on screen. And each get their own little moment too. Not many people know who Brian Darcy James is, and he has a tremendous moment where he realizes that the address of one of these priests is like a block and a half over from where he lives with his kids. So when they finally published the article and having him go over there and put the newspaper on his front doorstep, he has an awesome moment. Every single person in this movie has great moments. This movie is fantastic, and it's one of the biggest recommendations that I've ever given on this YouTube channel. At number 3 is the movie that won Ben Affleck his second Academy Award for producing this movie, a film called Argo. Argo, fuck yourself. A movie about the movie that saved lives. You gotta get all these American refugees who are out in the Middle East who could be captured at any moment and killed by the Middle Easterns out there. And how do you get them out? Well, probably the stupidest idea that we've ever come up with. Let's make a fake movie and say that we're scouting locations in the area, and let's get them out that way, and they'll be our film crew. The dumbest idea you ever heard? that just might work. This was an amazing thriller that didn't have a single gunshot in the movie at them. Once they start enacting the plan and they're trying to get on that plane, all I'm doing is I'm sitting on my chair going, oh my god, get on the fucking plane! Get on the motherfucking plane! Ben Affleck, who directed this film, great eye for tension and a great eye for cinematography and building up the thrillingness of this whole situation. But then also leading into the comedic aspects of it. Bryan Cranston is great, John Goodman is great. I love this movie. This is one of my favorites on this list. At number 2 is probably the hardest movie to watch on this list, but it's also containing the best performances, at my money, the best performances on this list, and that is 12 Years a Slave. I only watched this movie one time before, and I thought it was great back then, but I never had the desire to go back and watch this just because of the subject matter, and it's really tough to watch. But the performance from Chiwetel Ejiofor is enough to get this film up to the second spot on this list because he is breathtaking. Watching him just cling on to the last little tiny threads of hope through his situation. He was a free man, and then he was kidnapped and then sold into slavery, constantly looking for that way out and that way home back to his wife and back to his family, until he gets to a certain point, and I won't spoil it when it happens, but you can tell where that hope, that thread of hope is completely lost, and he accepts his situation that he is in, that he is probably going to be in that situation for the rest of his life. The movie doesn't glorify anything. It doesn't look at the artistic take on slavery and how that looked like back then. It just presents it in a very honest light. Steve McQueen does incredible work with this movie. It's a great tale to behold, and in the end, it's a great story about hope. Regardless of how ever fleeting it is or how bleak it looks like at any point in your life, it's still important to hold on to that just sliver of hope, because there's always hope wherever you go in this world. After watching it for the second time for this ranking video, do I have the urge to go back and watch it? I'll be honest, no. It's probably going to be another decade for me to want to go back and watch this movie, but if I do it, it's because of Chiwetel Ejiofor, because his performance is one of the best I've ever seen, and probably you've ever seen if you've seen the film. At number 1, though, the film that got me here and here, the film that I use for my speech classes, and the film that I use for my communication classes that I taught, a movie called The King's Speech. It's a movie about the power of words and delivering those words and speaking those words, and how powerful those actions can be. It's one thing to write something down on a sheet of paper, or post it online on a Facebook page or a tweet, but being able to speak them and share that with people in the same room that you are, or people all throughout the country or all throughout the world, it's a very powerful thing to be able to speak and present ideas and words to people. And to see someone who can't speak find the power and the willpower to be able to do that is very inspiring. This is one of my favorite movies, and I think our 3 actors in here, Helena Bonham Carter, Colin Firth, and Geoffrey Rush, all do fantastic work. I love how Geoffrey Rush's character is very firm in his ideals and his practices. So firm that he is not willing to bend to the Duke of York, who would be the future King of Britain. You are your Royal Highness, but this is my house, this is my rules, so you will not smoke. You will allow me to call you by your first name, and you will do the same for me. And I love how Carter is taking back at that at first, but then she actually gets a smirk on her face and realizes, like, I like that. I like that, and I like you. This is the movie that made me fall in love with her. I was not a big fan of her before that. I've seen her in films, typically anything with Tim Burton, because, you know, all the crazy wigs and costumes he wants her to wear. This was the first movie that I watched her in, and I went, you know what? You're a really cool person. I really like you. And Colin Firth does an incredible job with that stutter. It's very easy to take on a role like this, or take on a role of a character that does have a stutter and ham it up, or make it big and make it very performy. The stutter that Colin Firth develops, though, for King George is very subtle, and it's heartbreaking to see him, because he wants to say something. He wants to talk, but to see him not be able to do that, and just literally seeing that word on the tip of his tongue, and you just want to reach in and grab it out for him, but you just can't. It's heartbreaking, but gosh, the ending of this movie is so gratifying. Like I said, this is one of my favorites, and it deserves to be #1 on this list for all the Best Picture winners from the 2010s. And that was my list. What did you think about it? What is your list and your ranking of all the Best Picture winners from the 2010s? I really want to see where my list stacks up against yours to see, you know, whether who's right or who's wrong, right? Maybe I shouldn't say that. That was the wrong thing to say. I mean, we're all right in our own opinions, but I'm interested to see what everyone else's is. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you on the next time I release my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel, but in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.